Hey guys, happy Friday. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2019. Super excited to be here with the one and only Ricky Booth. What's up, Ricky?
How's it going?
And he's got a great jacket on today, so we want to give him kudos from that. What's up, Dave Benson? So let us know you can hear us and see us, which we've already gotten, so that's good. We got some hearts. That's always good. That's what we ask the audience to do.
Is that what the hearts mean?
The hearts mean
they love me.
They absolutely love you, Ricky. It's not that they love me, it's that they love the guest. See? Love that bright red jacket and tie. Thanks, Shirley. All right, so welcome to the show. I'm very excited you drove all the way to the big city from Osceola.
We're used to it in Osceola County, driving somewhere. Yep.
I mean, you are far, but we're going to get into that and talk about it. So the audience loves to know origin story. They want to know a little bit about you. I gave some hints about ranching, and of course, people can tag or can look you up on Facebook. But tell them a little bit about you.
So we have 30 minutes. So I guess I'll have to shorten this.
Shorten it.
I like to talk. First of all, I had to step up my fashion game today because I couldn't just wear a black coat.
I love that you brought two.
I brought two to make sure that was okay.
That was awesome.
I didn't want us both to have a red jacket on.
Pretty much note to everyone else, please bring another jacket just in case you're wearing that the other one.
Yeah. So, to start from the beginning, we talked a little bit before, what a lot of people don't know about me, even though I'm a 6th or 7th or whatever generation it is, Floridian, Central Floridian, by the way. I was actually born in Alabama. That's where my dad's from. My mother went to Auburn University. My dad attended the University of Alabama. But my mother's family, who many folks know in Osceola County, Central Florida, the Parton family, they've been down here a long, long time. I have lots of kinfolk. Many I don't claim.
Parton Settlement.
Parton Settlement. Yeah, there's a Parton Cemetery here in Orlando. They used to do a Parton family reunion every year in Fort Christmas, and which is kind of east of Orlando.
Yeah, wow, that's far.
So my mother's family's been down here a long time. So right after I was born, they decided to come back down. Both of my parents are educators, so that was kind of the school board connection. I know we'll get to that, but
awesome.
They moved down here. I was raised here in Kissimmee and St. Cloud, and my family had the ranching property and the operation, and so I grew up. My dad was a football coach and wrestling coach, so I kind of grew up, being on the sidelines at Osceola High School football games and being on the wrestling mats.
Did you play?
Oh yeah, heck yeah! I played football, St. Cloud High School, but I was a St. Cloud High School grad.
War Eagles, somebody just said.
War Eagle, that's my mother's team. I'm actually a Gator. I was going to get to that. They don't even let me get there.
No. When you start talking about football, they're all going to pop in.
It's on. So I got Roll Tide, and I got War Eagle, and my wife and I are Go Gators.
All right, Go Gators.
So anyway, like I said, raised here, went to school, went to public schools in Osceola County because my mother taught at Beaumont Middle School forever. Those folks from Kissimmee remember, taught home economics, which is we don't even really do anymore. So when she retired, I put it online that she was retiring, and everybody said, "Oh, I still have my football I made, or I still have my stuffed animal I made in your mom's class." So it was, and I still do, by the way.
Of course,
as well.
I miss those days. Those were good classes.
Those were awesome.
You learned something.
Learned how to cook. Anyway, so my dad was, like I said, a coach, and then what he always says is that his kids kind of ruined his coaching career. And he says it with a smile, but he went to UCF at nights. At nights, he went to UCF at night.
No judgment on this show, my friend.
To get his master's degree in educational leadership, and ended up becoming an administrator. And so then we moved to St. Cloud, out to our property we have on Canoe Creek Road, and pretty much all the property that family has in Kissimmee is gone now, but being developed, which is a little sad, but it is just kind of the way of the world, the way of Central Florida.
Well, St. Cloud has been, like when I grew up here, the thing I knew about St. Cloud was the water tower. Mm-hmm. That's literally what I remember.
And it had a cross on it.
It had a cross on it. There was a big to-do about it. I mean, it was in the news, even national news. But St. Cloud has grown tremendously. I was just out at Krabby Bill's we were talking about earlier. Just amazed at the development out there.
I use education talk is what I can talk. So I can tell you that when I started school in the early 80s, I was born in the late 70s. In the early 80s, and my parents were working there, I think there was somewhere around 7,000 to 8,000 kids in the Osceola County School District. I think we should this year go over 70,000. So that's a lot of growth. That's a lot of growth. 25, 35, whatever years that is. That's a ton of growth. And so my parents have been here for it all. I've been here for it all. And it really puts a strain, I think, on the agricultural community, which I'm a part of, because the land gets so valuable. It
Right.
kind of pushes folks into making hard decisions about properties. And so it is, when I drive down Neptune Road, the Parton settlement where my great-grandfather grew up, and when I drive down Neptune Road, and my mother was raised where the Tractor Supply, which was the old Walmart in St. Cloud, was at, and I see that development and that growth. Or when I turn down Henry Parton Road and remember all the times I spent as a kid, gathering cattle there and working there, and now it's all homes. I get that people are kind of living the Central Florida dream, so I'm fine with that. Change is change. I get that, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a little bit of kind of like I kind of wish we're still a bunch of Brahmer cows.
Well, it's bittersweet for you, right?
Sure,
you see the
sure.
growth, and we'll get to your involvement in the county, but you see the growth. You grew up with it. I'm sure you heard stories from your parents, grandparents, just of all of the way St. Cloud used to be,
Sure.
Osceola County used to be. So yeah, I mean there is some sort of bittersweet. Like when I see Orly, we were talking about it just for a brief minute before the show went live. I've seen a lot of growth since I've been here, which is I got here the year before you were born. Scary. You are much younger than me. Don't mention it again. We'll have to crop you out later.
Not better looking.
Oh no,
I'll give you
stop.
that one.
You have a great jacket on today, though. I love
appreciate it.
But
My wife loves this
even the
jacket.
growth here that you see in Orlando and Orange County has just been. It's night and day. It's completely different. So I do sort of remember some of the, even at UCF, you can still drive down UCF and see some of the old roads that were there,
Yep.
but it's a completely changed campus than when Stacy and I were there.
Yep.
All right, so what did you do in college? What did you want to be? What were you?
Yeah, so I don't admit this a lot. I was going to actually be, I wanted to be a large animal veterinarian. I was
Did
going
you
to school
really?
for that. And I didn't tell you this before, I attended Auburn University for a year, decided to transfer down to the University of Florida after 1 year. I love Auburn. I love the campus. I love that part of Alabama. But I thought it was best for me to move down back to kind of closer to home, and I came to University of Florida. In the end, it was the best decision that I made. So I was there at University of Florida, got a degree in animal sciences, graduated Bachelor of Science with honors. I was the smartest redneck at the school. That's how but anyway, I graduated with that degree in animal sciences and came back home and started working on the ranch. And really got married the next year to my beautiful, lovely wife, Erica, who I'm still married and having 3 kids. And she's awesome. Kids are awesome. But,
So you stayed within because you grew up around it, and then you went to college and you got a degree in it, and so you came back to do it.
I did, and I was lucky to have that opportunity. I know there's a lot of folks that romanticize the industry that I'm in. It's not very romantic, the day-to-day operations, but there's a lot of folks that romanticize the industry that I'm in. But it's a lot of tough work. I always say, I've been given a lot. I understand that, but winter break I was working, Christmas break I was working,
Right.
Summer break I was working, spring break I was working as a kid, and so much was expected of all of us as
Sure.
kids, and so. But really enjoy what I'm doing. I make my kids work even when they don't want to.
So talk about what you do. So I know enough to be dangerous about what even the word ranching means.
Yeah.
But I think when people think of it, if you're old enough, you remember Bonanza. If you're young enough, you
Sure.
might know Dallas. I mean, there's, you think of ranches and people say that and it sounds all cool, but people really probably have no
So
idea.
we do not have enough time in 20 minutes to talk about everything ranching, but what we do on our operation, what I've been doing since I came back home from school and really my whole life, we in the state of Florida are in what we call the cow-calf business. So we raise calves that then are shipped when they're about somewhere, this is a big range, but somewhere between 7, 8, 9, 10 months old, weighing somewhere from 450 to 650 pounds. They come and gather them up, usually somewhere between July, August, September, October, early November. All these calves are weaned off the cows and they're shipped out west, where they'll be put either on a grazing operation, a winter grazing, if somebody has winter wheat, or like in the Flint Hills of Kansas where they have winter pasture. And then they'll go into a feed yard where they'll be fed corn and then eventually harvested, right? So we don't. So a lot of people always come out. Oh, you live on a cattle ranch. You just have beef everywhere.
I mean, I would have thought the same thing.
You grab a steak, but really that finished product that we know in the United States, that finished, really juicy ribeye or strip steak, and that's so good, is not what we produce here. It's entirely possible that you've eaten a piece of beef that was born in Florida,
right?
That went out west, and so it's easier to ship cattle to corn than it is to ship corn to cattle. The other interesting thing we do in our operation, which is something, and this is how my great-grandfather made a name for himself and built the empire he built, was the Brahman cattle. So back in the early 1900s, some folks in Louisiana imported these cattle from India who were subtropically adapted, so they can handle these climates that these Angus and Herefords, what we call English breeds, couldn't handle. So they're called Brahmins. They brought them in, they spread through Texas. He brought the first ones into Central Florida, into the state of Florida.
Cool.
On a train car in Kissimmee, I think it was 1933. My grandfather told the story great because they got him off the rail car right in downtown Kissimmee, just right where the train stops today, and drove them around the lake to where their homestead was, and started producing these Brahman cattle to then sell to people to utilize those genetics. And so we call that seed stock production. So we still do that today. We're still raising purebred Brahman cattle.
What makes it Brahman? Is there something? I think
it's
for
just
somebody
the
who's an
name.
idiot,
So
it's
they
just
have the
the name.
hump. They have a thinner hide, slicker hair. They can handle the climate and the low quality forage that we have. So we have a lot of pests, a lot of flies, a lot of intestinal parasites here. They can handle that better.
Interesting.
And so you crossbreed them with these English cattle, Angus and Hereford, and you make these Brayford and Brangus and all these crossbred derivatives that better meat quality, but still adapted to our climate. So that's kind of what we do.
To me, it's Hey Ray, hey Mark, what's up? Mark said prime rib.
Prime rib. Eat more beef. It's what for dinner.
It's what's for dinner. So what's fascinating to me though is that you can have all of those different breeds, and then how your grandfather, what I love about this is before social media people and all that, how did he know to bring in a Brahmin? Like, where do you learn that?
Sure. So
I love it.
I would probably give credit to what's been around for more than 100 years, is like our extension services through the University of Florida. So each state has what they call land grant university that has extension services. We also had a cattlemen's association that started, I think, officially in the 30s, but I know there was groups of cattlemen that got together even before that. So he knew, and it was a business decision that he made. Essentially,
a smart one, obviously.
I'm going to bring these cattle in here, and really changed the face of the Florida cattle industry. And we're still, that was back in 1933. We're still utilizing those cattle today in crossbreeding programs. And it's funny because with our huge Hispanic population, right? I think I saw the other day that Osceola County is like 60 or 65% Hispanic. Probably in the 1940s and 50s, the only Hispanic people that came to Osceola County were the people coming to visit Henry O. Parton to buy Brahman genetics. I was down in Colombia and in Ecuador on trade missions for the Brahman Association with the Florida Department of Agriculture, selling Brahman cattle, right? And I met people who, older gentlemen, who had been to Kissimmee and who had met Henry O. Parton, or met Geach Parton, or met Doc Parton, my grandfather, and bought cattle from them, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And they remember the name, they remember buying the cattle. They tell me about still having, some descendants of those cattle. And so it's really interesting. You meet those folks from Guatemala, and Nicaragua, and Costa Rica, and Colombia, and Venezuela, and it's really neat.
That's so cool. I love that history.
Yeah.
I also love that you're in it, so you actually are living. Sure. You're still actually benefiting from and growing that business that he had the forethought to really bring in those cattle. I did not know the difference. Mark says Dade City was cattle country when I was growing up there.
A lot of Brahman
City,
cattle in Dade
Pasco.
City over in the Bartle brothers are over there. Actually, the little known fact, the Bellamy brothers, if you remember their music from back in the 80s, they live in a small area called San Antonio, Florida, which is right next to Dade City. And actually Howard raises Brahman cattle. I've sold Howard some Brahman cattle.
That's so cool.
But they're great guys.
So how about education, right? So tell them what you're currently doing. Like, what I want to know is sort of the journey. So you have your family business, you have your business you're growing, and then what makes you take a leap into, you played in a band, Mark, we got to talk about that later. What makes you take a leap into the education
Well,
world?
like I said, both my parents, so my dad didn't grow up in the cattle operation, and back in the day, women didn't do a whole lot of work on the cattle operation. And there's a ton of women, by the way, that work in my industry today, but that's not how it was back then. And so my mom was an educator, like I said, a home ec teacher, and then health. And funny story, I had my mother from middle school sex education class.
Oh,
it was very interesting. My dad, he loved coaching. That was his true passion, coaching and teaching. But he ended up, being an administrator, retired as an administrator in Osceola County. So basically, as a young man coming up, I would be you get asked, you get asked to be on boards. People see something in you, they're like, hey, this dummy will show up to meetings, this dummy will speak his mind.
Is that what they think?
Yes, I do think so. And they say, we see a talent in Ricky. We see leadership qualities. So, hey, Ricky, will you come be on this board? Hey, Ricky, will you come be on this board? Hey, will you come be on this board? And I think my wife said I was in a race to be on as many boards as I could, to be away from her as much as I could, and the kids, which just wasn't true.
That's my wife.
But to be honest, my dad and my mom and my dad were both that way. My mom was always the 4-H leader. My dad always served on the, tons of boards when growing up. So it's just one of the, and my grandparents as well. So when you grow up in that culture of serving your community, it's kind of ingrained in you. It's like you just have to do it. It's part of what you have to do. So that's what happened. I was just serving on a ton of boards, and there came an opportunity to be on the school board. Of course, everybody knew my mom and dad, and from being educators, and said, "Hey, Ricky, this would be a great fit for you. Why don't you look into doing it?" So, and I had dabbled in some things before that. It didn't. Never ran for anything before that, but dabbled in a couple things. And always, our ag community is very advocacy driven. We do Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Cattlemen's Association. We do a ton of advocacy locally and in Tallahassee. Anyway, so I had that kind of background as well. So I ran for the school board, didn't know what I was doing.
Well, yeah, tell us a little bit about that journey, because I think it's fascinating, because people think that, I always like to give you a little break so you can have something to wet your whistle on.
I can talk a lot.
But I think that there are people that want to get involved, and then that journey seems like such a scary one, because our political environment overall seems to be very hateful.
It is. It's the worst thing about the environment right now, I think.
Yeah, it's I don't care what race you're in, what you're running for, what you want to do. There's some dirty person that's running against you, or it always seems like there is so much negativity is a better word than dirty, but it feels dirty. Well, so what was your experience like?
School board is the worst. I mean, you can take normal, the mom that would never say anything to a county commissioner or a city councilman because she's not that worried that there's a pothole in her road, but if you mess with her baby, you're going to hear from her. And you know what? That's okay. And I think my background and understanding education, even though I'm not an educator, my wife is also an educator, by the way, understanding education, having that background, and listening to all that, dinner table talk with my mom and dad, really kind of prepared me for that. So the running part, the campaigning part, is what I didn't know. So folks were there to help me to understand, hey, you've got to get out there, you've got to do the work, you've got to get your name out there. And hey, I ran in a 4-person race. I can remember it was August of 2014, the primary. We really fully intended that I would be one of the finalists, that I would be in the final 2, and I would run again against somebody in November. I think I worked so hard and did everything right, I guess, that I won that race with like 58% of the vote.
Wow.
In a 4-person race, and so I did not have to run in November, and then ran, I guess, I don't know if you could call it run, but I was uncontested in 2018, so I did not have an opponent in 2018. Nice for me, and I think it was a thank you from the community, maybe too, that said, "Hey, we appreciate what you guys are doing." I came in with Mr. Clarence Thacker, who also has a background in Osceola County, loves Osceola County like I do, and he didn't have an opponent either, and so it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a lot of hard work.
Let's talk about the hard work, because I think so. You win the election, so you've gone through the whole race part.
Yep.
And then I think what a lot of people don't understand is that you get in and you might be doe-eyed and think that, okay, I'm going to change the world. And then you realize that there's a whole infrastructure involved. Yep. There's one of the reasons why I don't run for office.
I'm going to put on red jackets and go do Facebook interviews with cool guys.
I gotta go to the Citrus Club. What the heck? But there's a whole other world to it. It's not like you get in and immediately you can make all the changes that you've talked about. And I think people who listen to what you say, and rhetoric's got such a terrible connotation to it, but I believe like your discussion, what your campaign's about, what you want to do, you can't just implement it day one. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about when you get in.
Yeah, so when you get in, the real work begins. When all the election's over and all those paid political hacks on Facebook aren't telling everybody how dumb and stupid you are, which, by the way, the quickest way to becoming an idiot is to win an election. But
I haven't heard that before. That's awesome.
So, yeah, you get in and the hard work begins. How am I going to be, first of all, a team member? Because you're not being elected an executive. You're being elected a member of a team,
right?
A board member. How am I going to work with these folks? Mr. Weissar was already there. Mr. Soto was already there. Mr. Wheeler was there. How am I going to work with these folks to do what's best for Osceola County? And I think our biggest task, obviously, in an appointed superintendent district, as Osceola County is to have the right superintendent. And when Miss Melba decided to step down, that was the biggest thing that we've done there is to hire the superintendent we currently have, Dr. Deborah Pace, who is awesome.
I've heard that.
We also, in Osceola County, have to make tough decisions because the way we're funded, we're the lowest in the state per student. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We have just a young population. We have kids, a lot of lower income housing, not a lot of business, and which, by the way, that's part of my county commission platform.
Oh yeah, we got to get to that too.
For that, but those things are what really have a negative impact on the amount of money that we get from the state. And I think the state can do a better job of funding counties like Osceola, and I have to give a lot of credit to Representative LaRosa for getting us what we call the compression funding, so bringing that back a little bit to normal. So really focusing on how do we put the most money, because the budget is our big thing, right?
Right.
The superintendent has the constitutional authority to hire and fire people, so I don't really decide who your principal is. But the budget and the vision, and so to say, hey, guess what? We are going to focus our efforts on having the lowest administrative cost in the whole entire state. We're not going to spend a lot of money at the top. We want to put as much back in the classroom as we can. And the numbers bear that out, because we do, for 2 or 3 years now, have had the lowest administrative cost in the entire state. But that doesn't come with negative effects. Certainly, we don't have enough people on maintenance staff. We don't probably have enough bus drivers, but we are putting as much back in our teachers' pockets as we can, and as much back into the schools as we can, because we believe, as the son of 2 educators, that that's where education happens.
Well, it's so funny you bring that up. It's actually awesome you bring that up, because I had on the people who kind of started the whole Orange County teachers thing that was going on, which you might have heard about it, David Grimm and Robert Prater on. And that show went crazy viral because there were so many people who were interested in it, but they continued to use Osceola as an example of what you can do for your teachers, for your educators. So you obviously were doing something right. But let me ask you, you're making this big impact, you're making all this change. What's the impetus for you deciding, all right, it's time to go to a different role?
Well, sure. You serve, it won't be 2 terms, it'll be a term and a half, just because of the way the cookie crumbles there. But you feel like, and what I've always felt like, because I'm kind of a believer in term limits, so that you come in, you do your work, and there's develop other leaders in your community, and so I think we've done that, and so for me, moving on to the county commission or running for the county commission, so the voters will decide if I move on to the county commission. Look, I have a love for this county, for Osceola County, not the one we're sitting in. I love it too, but I have a love for Osceola County, and I see some things that I hope that I can make a difference there. We've got, and it's a shame that in 2019, 2020, that we have to say, hey, I support our policemen and our firemen and our public safety officials. I do. But also to say, hey, it was a big deal that our county stepped up, our county commission, and helped to fund an SRO in every school, which I think was great, and I'll continue that.
I love it.
On there. But to understand where development is, we talked a lot about development before the show, and we haven't talked a lot about it here, but just the changes that we've seen in our community, let's do it right. Let's make sure that what we're doing is adding value to our community, because right now the development we've had over the past decade is not really paying for the roads, paying for the schools, and paying for the parks and the infrastructure that make a really high quality community. We've got to do a better job, in my opinion, of planning out what our future is going to look like. And I can tell you, a lot of people in my district want to just turn the faucet off. And look, we talked about it. I'd love for all those cow pastures to still be cow pastures, but I understand there's also personal property rights, and there's things that happen in a community, and development that happens for a reason. So look, if we're going to grow, let's do it in a smart way. Let's do it in a planned way. Let's do it in a way that when it's all said and done, we say, wow, let's make Osceola County even better than it is today, because Osceola County is a great place.
Osceola is amazing.
It's amazing.
I think a lot
Let's
of people
make it even better.
I think a lot of people have they're misinformed. I think they think, well, Disney's in your backyard. You must be one of the richer counties. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about Osceola County. When people think of Osceola, they think Kissimmee, right? That's the first thing I think of. But you've got all these amazing communities that are growing and building. We were talking about Harmony a little while ago. There's just so much out there that is going so positively, and the growth. What do you want? What specifically do you think? I always like to say when, because I'm a positive optimist. So when you become county commissioner, I said that, you didn't.
Yeah,
I'm allowed to.
You are.
Maybe.
You are. Yep.
So when, what are some of the first things that you want to do? Because it's a transition, right?
Sure.
Being on the school board is one thing. So you've got to feel for politics. I hate to use that word, but that's what it is.
It is what it is.
And then you get in. Commission's different. This is a bigger. This is a county-wide thing. This is more than just education. I guess it's broader.
Well, I can tell you that the number one driver, though, just to stay on that note for a second, and you said that, which is why sometimes people say, you're moving up, and I said, no, not really. I'm making a lateral move and serving in a different way, because I'll tell you this. If you talk to people, and I've talked to a ton of people that have moved into the Harmony community. Take Harmony, for example. I say, why? I'll meet them, because my kids all go to school out there. I say, why did you move to Harmony? And they say, oh, we came here, these houses are great. We walked out here, we looked at this school. Everybody talks about how great this community school is. We got a high school across the street. You guys are building, which is now built, a middle school across the street. So I can live here, my kids can walk to school, community. So if you don't have a strong education system, you're not going to have the development that you want. So even though I may be stepping away from the school board, I can tell you that I still believe that education in a growing community has got to be one of your top priorities. And it better be a top priority for your city councils, for the Kissimmee City Commission, for the Osceola County Commission, and for not just only the school board. And I can tell you, in this community right now, it is, because we have great relationships. That's one thing that when I came on to the school board, one thing that we did is just change the culture of what the school board looked like. We're not here throwing papers at each other, yelling at each other, filing lawsuits against each other. We're here to work together, work with other communities. But really, it's about how we're going to develop and grow, and about creating a strategy, creating a plan. It's things that we've done, that I've been a part of on the school board, and made huge differences, huge strides there with fiscal responsibility, taking us from a C to a B. I don't want to say this on Facebook, but almost an A. We're getting really close. So the vision that we've laid out on a school board and the people that we've put in place, that's what made the difference. I can do the same thing at the county commission.
I love that. What does your family think of this political career? What do your kids and your wife think?
My kids don't really know any different. It's been 6 years. So my daughter that's 15 now, she was 8, 9 years old when all the campaigning was kicking off. So she doesn't know a whole lot different. Sometimes I think it's cool that dad is on all the websites at the school, or sometimes I talk. I have sent messages to the schools, or parents know that they can call me, or like, hey, I'm calling. Their friends will say, why don't you call your dad and tell him, why can't we wear hoodies at school? They kind of.
I can't even imagine the questions you get with kids in the system.
But I can. Oh yes, and having kids, that means I'm around a ton of kids. They're at my house, or I'm at events. So I get it all the time. I love it. Actually, I love talking to people. I love interacting with folks. It's just awesome. And so I can tell you that my wife, my mother, my dad, they don't take too kindly to some of the stuff that's on social media, but they also know that a lot of that is just people that are there
from other people.
Sure.
Critics.
For nefarious reasons. And hey, I'll be the first to tell you too, my dad and my mother have both said, hey, I don't like the decision that you made tonight. Which is, you know what? It's okay. That's okay. I think.
I love that.
When did we get to a place in society where if someone disagrees with you, or you on just one issue, that all of a sudden that person is terrible and we need to destroy that person and they're the worst person ever? No, we just disagree. I think disagreement is not hate. And so
I agree. It's just too much. People just don't understand how to handle disagreement. I think and I don't know if it's the age group or social media's helped create that, but anything that's contentious, I feel like, and contentious isn't necessarily a bad word either. It's just, you have to kind of frame it the way you look at things. And so just having a disagreement on Facebook, not believing the exact same thing.
Sure.
Who believes the exact same thing on every topic? It's very difficult.
I can tell you my wife and I don't even do that.
Neither do Stacy and me. We don't agree on every single thing. My kids certainly are all over the board, all over the place when it comes to their belief system, which is fascinating to watch as your kids grow up.
Sure.
It's like, where did you come from? We are all over the place. It's so crazy, but that's good. But we all come together and we still have discussions, and we're able to still respect each other.
Sure.
And as long as you're not spewing hate, just because I disagree with you, then we're golden. But you're right. I think
I've
we've
told
got to this
people
place.
in this political world that I can't be a hater. I love having a good time. Sometimes that doesn't serve me well. I love to laugh. Sometimes I laugh at the appropriate times. But I love to laugh. I enjoy life. I enjoy my wife. I enjoy my kids. I enjoy my family. I enjoy my job. I enjoy serving. And so you're not going to nobody's bringing me down. I may lose an election one day in the future, right? But you know what? I'm still, after that election's over, I'm going to go home and love my wife and love my kids and get back on a horse and love doing what I do every day.
Oh, so you ride horses too?
Oh, yeah.
See, I haven't ridden a horse in a very long time. I hear it's easy.
I'll get you on one, but we'll definitely video it.
Oh, we'll do a TED. So we have a new episode, and then I've got to wrap you up because I could talk to you forever. Yeah. We have a TED Tries where I try things that I either haven't done before or certainly haven't done very well. That would be an episode.
Must sign the disclaimer.
I'll sign the disclaimer. That's fine. All right, so Ricky, you're a joy. We're going to share all of Ricky's contact information, how you can reach out to him, how you can learn more about what's going on in Osceola County, more about the election, more about what he's doing. Haters going to hate. That's right, John. We all know that, right? Ooh, that's a whole nother discussion for Osceola County sometimes.
Kudos to John, right, for all the great work he's doing.
Kudos to John. He's amazing. Scotty's also. All you guys are so awesome. There's such a good group of people out there that really want the best for everyone, and it's not just Osceola County, but they want the best overall. And so I'm very excited for what you're doing and what you plan to do. All right, so mentorship is super huge. We want more people to get involved in the community. We want you to mentor people. And so one of the things that Ted tries needs you, horse, right, Jill? Yeah, me on horseback. That should be fascinating.
Yes.
But it's so important to give thanks. Gratitude is big. I'm a big gratitude person. So give a shout out to one or two or a couple of people who have impacted you along the way, been a mentor to you.
Yeah, so a couple things. A lot of times I take this opportunity to talk about my grandfathers. One was a World War II veteran, and the one was the romantic cowboy that you talk about, right? That you envision, and that they were awesome people. My dad, the football coach and teacher, that had such a big influence on my life. My mother, the leader. I don't talk a lot about my grandmother, who has. I think is the one who instilled, genetically, we get this. I work a lot in genetics, so I think about it in that way. I don't talk about my Granny Pete a lot, and the influence that she had. I think we all get these qualities from her that just lead us to leadership, and sometimes it's just because we think people can't do it as good as we can. It's more
That's
so
fair
you
and
feel
honest.
like you had to lead. And so I really want to give a shout out to my grandmother. She's passed away, but she was such an awesome lady. Had a rough childhood. Her biological mother died before she was 1 year old. She had a stepmother who's the only mother she knew, died in the flu epidemic, I think in 1927, whenever that was.
Wow.
So she was just kind of, her father was an alcoholic and worked in the logging industry, so just kind of traveled the state. Ended up kind of in Laughlin, Florida, and the lady was the valedictorian of Osceola High School in 1935, basically with no parental guidance. She had a great family, was taking care of her. Ended up going to college in 1935. Nobody does that, right? No woman does that in 1935. Went to the University of Kentucky. My grandfather said, heck with this. Spent a year without her, drove up there and got her. Interesting fact, you could not get married under the age of 18 in Kentucky at that time, so he had to drive her over to Jeffersonville, Indiana, where they eloped, and he brought her back home, and the rest is history.
I love it.
So Granny Pete was such a strong influence, I think, on so many people. I don't say this a lot. Dr. Deborah Pace happens to be my first cousin, who's the superintendent of Osceola School. That's her grandmother too. She has grandsons that have led the State Cattlemen's Association, that have led the national breed organizations. One in Texas. Had a son who was a county commissioner. Had a daughter who was a strong leader in the community, and so. When we look back and you say, where did all this come from? And there's this link to this family that we have, all my cousins, and how it's just this obnoxious leading that we do. And I think it really all goes, not that I didn't have great grandparents everywhere, but I think it really all goes back to my Granny Pete, Petey Parton. Mildred Miller was her real name, but she was, and I'm not crying.
We talked about that. It's all right. I set you up for it. So
because guess what? My grandmother did not like crying.
So you're not crying, Ricky.
I did. I was honored to actually. I did tear up a little bit. I was honored to give the eulogy at her funeral, and so I really want to give a shout out to her and what she meant to. And one of her big things was faith. So even if you couldn't go to church. You watch Jim Henry. I don't know if you remember Jim Henry on TV. From
but
the First
the
Baptist
name sounds...
Church. Used to always be on Channel 9,
absolutely,
the First Baptist Church of Orlando. So if you didn't go to church, you had to watch Jim Henry on TV. But most of the time, always in church. And so I think getting that faith, getting that strong leadership. Shout out to Granny Pete. She was an amazing lady.
Love that. You know why I love to ask that? Not just because I want people to get involved, because it's so cool to hear the stories and how people impacted. And you're never sure what somebody's going to say and who impacted them, who was a mentor to them. And I love what comes to mind when people are live.
Yeah, I had some others, but politically, maybe not as good.
We'll have to talk about those after the show. But I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's awesome. So Granny Pete.
Granny Pete. I won't tell you how she got the name Petey, but
all right.
You can imagine.
Well, you've been a joy to have on, my friend. Thank you so much. Thanks, John, for the intro at the gala. That was really, I think, where we met.
That is where we met.
But I looked sometimes I just connect with people and I like the story, and then, of course, John's in my ear a little bit telling me about how awesome you are, and so I would 1,000% agree with
John's the awesome guy.
John is awesome. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for driving all the way out here. We love you guys. I think this is my last show of the year, so just a big Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope you do it with a lot of loved ones and a ton of love and happiness and gratitude. I may come on and do a show later on next week, but this is our last official episode of 2019.
I feel very special.
You are very special. We love you guys so much and so appreciative of you. And we thank you for all the support for the TED Show and for all of the guests that have come on. Big thank you for coming on and sharing your journeys. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. We love you. Mwah. See you soon.